Give it up for Janelle Monae! Woo! Hey! I love that jacket.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a little jungle gym over here.
How are you guys doing?
Well, we're happy to have you. It's really good to see you. And I know you guys are super excited to see her as well, right? Okay, so I've got some questions. I know you guys, I think, have some questions too. So before we get into your new album, which is coming out, I want to talk about the very first time that I saw you on TV and heard your music for the first time and heard your voice. It was back in 2011 with Bruno Mars at the Grammys. That was a really cool thing to see you there, and then just how your career has evolved immensely. So my question is, where did your career start? Was there a defining moment, a situation that you really pursued music?
Well, I think there are different levels to deciding that you want this to be your career. There's the moment of obviously honing in on your craft. So I grew up doing a lot of talent showcases, and my parents would drive me around. My mom in particular would go shopping with us to get our outfits, and I was in this like duo with one of my best friends. We had a group called Shage, and we would perform all around Kansas City. And then throughout high school, that was middle school, high school, we went solo, and then I would do talent showcases by myself, and I would get money, and I would save up, and I took it like I was very competitive with the talent shows. And then it led me, the arts in general, from theater to music, led me to getting a scholarship to go attend the American Musical and Dramatics Academy in New York City, where I studied music and acting. And then discovered I didn't want to be on Broadway because I felt like there were not a lot of roles for black women where you had at least 12 different opportunities to be the lead of this big musical. It was like The Wiz, maybe if it came back, and maybe another one. And I just, as a writer, someone who grew up writing science fiction, who loved English, loved telling stories, I had a lot of stories to tell in my own heart, and I decided that I wanted to become an independent artist. And then I moved to Atlanta from New York. My family was so distraught. They did not know why I did that. They were like, why would you leave New York? Because that's literally all I would talk about. And I moved to Atlanta, and I lived in a boarding house with 6 other girls, and I sold my CDs out of my Mitsubishi Galant that I got with my tax refund check at this independent college I was going to in New York, Georgia Perimeter. And I would perform all my songs on like library steps and in dorm lounges for anybody that would listen. And that led me to getting fired from Office Depot because I responded to those 1 of 3 or 2 of 3 fans I had that came to support me on the library steps. I responded on a company's computer because Office Depot has display computers, and I could not afford a computer. And they let me go. They were like, we know you don't want to be here. And I think that was the moment where I knew that I didn't have any more excuses. I couldn't say, oh, well, I'm working 1 to 9, so I can't go to the studio and record. It was like, you literally have nothing to do. Nobody wants to hire you anywhere else. Like, focus on what you have to say and what you feel in your heart. And I pursued it full time, and one event led to another. I found my tribe, and we founded the Wonderland Art Society with lots of actresses and actors and musicians and screenwriters and producers and engineers, and we did that in Atlanta. And so that kind of led, but obviously there's so much to our stories and how we get here, but I think that's a pretty good time to stop.
Well, thank you. So it's been a while since your last album, about 5 years.
Really?
Yeah.
I guess when you time travel so much, you just lose track of time. I didn't realize
You're living
that.
in the future?
Yeah, a little too much, I guess.
5 years, yeah. So creating this album, Dirty Computer, which comes out next Friday, what goes through your mind when you're working on an album? And yours are very all-encompassing, like sonically and lyrically and visually. So where does the process start? Do you have a process? How does it go? How does it work?
I knew I wanted to record Dirty Computer before my first album, The Archandroid. I felt an obligation because I had Metropolis, which was an EP that came before The Archandroid, and that dealt with 2719, Cindy Mayweather, this messiah figure android from the future, that was caught in she's a star-crossed lover. She fell in love with a human, and it was forbidden. And I felt an obligation to the supporters, the fans who supported me when I first did that EP. So I felt like I needed to continue on with the suites because I had broken them up into like 4 or 5 different parts. And so I did Metropolis, Suite 104, The Chase, Archandroid 2 and 3 suites, and The Electric Lady 3 and 4. And I had this concept for Dirty Computer a while ago, but it deals with the concept of us as human beings being from the dirt. And when we pass on, in my opinion, when we go to another frequency, our bodies will go back to dirt. And they will just be in this world full of, your atoms and new people's atoms, and just this concept that we came from the dirt and will end up dying in the dirt. I'm not trying to be heavy, but that's what I was thinking. And then the computer part of it, the fact that we have these brains that are like CPUs. We're transmitting information. We are downloading, uploading information. And sometimes the way we're made, our code can come with bugs and viruses. And those bugs and viruses are oftentimes seen, if I bring it around to today, as negatives. A bug or a virus could represent you being in love with the same sex, or that's how we come. We're programmed. That's some of our DNA. It could be you being in a poor class, you being kind of shut out on the margins of society for being a woman because you are owning your sexuality, your agency. Like you're not dimming your light or being modest and playing by anybody's gender roles. It could also, it could be a lot of things, these bugs and viruses. But my question that I pose on the album is, are bugs and viruses negatives, or are they attributes, features that make this world a better place? Because of our complexities and our unique differences, we learn from each other. We in the melting pot, the land of the free. And that's what Dirty Computer represents. It represents a celebratory album for those who are oftentimes marginalized.
So we've heard a little taste of the album with the singles that you've released. And I know you released one today, but I wanted to talk about Pink, because I was on Twitter, and I don't know how much time you spend on social media, or not a whole lot. The reception to this was insane. Like the things that people were saying, it was so awesome. A couple of them was Cause of Death, the single artwork for Pink by Janelle Monae. I can't believe Janelle Monae invented the color pink. Like, it's the greatest thing. Did you expect that type of reception? Do you ever expect a positive or negative reception? How do you, when you put your art out into the universe?
With this project, I have still been extremely nervous about the responses. I mean, I have a big family. I have like over 50 first cousins. And I'm like, I know when I talk to them, I don't have time to talk to them about the album and all the things that I'm going to be doing. But I bet you my family is even at home like, what is this girl doing? What does all this mean? Yeah, I'm always nervous. I don't know how people are going to perceive such a personal experience and journey for me. I think that it needs to still be done. Like, I'm not going to water down, the art. And also, I feel it's kind of my responsibility as an artist to just push the conversations forward around gender, around race, around sexuality, around all these things that like we all go through. Like when I take off my makeup and my hair, I'm a young black woman in America. And I grew up to a very poor working class family. My mom was a janitor. My father was a sanitation worker. My stepdad, who's just like my dad, worked at the post office. So my perspective around the marginalized and around like women's rights and around being a black woman in America, those are things that I deal with on a daily basis outside of music. And I feel a responsibility to pushing those conversations forward. And I try to do it with symbolism. I try to do it through pants. I try to do it in whatever ways. And maybe, I might miss the mark. I can't, do everything or be everything for everyone. But the responsibility that I feel most is responsibility to honesty and to vulnerability. Because through those things comes empathy and understanding and hopefully uniting and liking each other. I may not agree, but I think that it's important that we can empathize with each other so that we can feel a need to take care of one another.
Well, it's definitely apparent in your aura and your music, and just going back to watching you in 2011 to now and through those years. So it seems like your career has just evolved in an amazing way, and beyond music, you've been in some amazing projects, Hidden Figures. We've all seen that. Moonlight was also amazing, all critically acclaimed too. When you set, I don't even know, when you set out on this journey, when you got fired from Office Depot, did you know that music would evolve to acting, would evolve to producing? Did you plan that? Did you want it to happen? Did you ever think about it?
Of course, I knew all this was going to happen. Everything you see right now has been orchestrated by none other than me. What are you talking about? No, of course not. I think they're loud in there. Can they be quiet?
Hey,
it's distracting. Can somebody please tell them to calm their conversation down? It's a little loud in there. Thank you. Love you. No, I didn't know that. I didn't know this. I still feel like I'm just getting started, because with my first couple albums, I had a subject that I could live vicariously through. I didn't really have to talk about Janelle Monae, but you kind of got hints of who I was. To be perfectly honest, I really kind of shy away from speaking from a first person perspective. I'm a very private person, so it just, I don't always want to talk about me per se, and just as a writer, I never like letting the truth get in the way of a good story. So I love telling stories, but no, it was the moment. You feel it in your spirit, in your heart, when it's time to do certain things. And I think doing Hidden Figures in Moonlight actually inspired me to tell my story, because those stories would have been erased. Like the fact that we didn't know about the women at NASA, the 3 black women at NASA, Mary Jackson, Katherine Johnson, Dorothy Vaughan, who helped get our first American astronaut into space, is a crime. Those are American heroes. They were doing the math to get John Glenn into space. If they were off by 1 decimal, he would have died. America would not have gone to space. So those are American heroes that I didn't even know the story about growing up. So if that movie didn't really get made, I think the science community may have known about them, but I don't think the rest of the world would have known. And even with Moonlight, hearing the story of this gay, young, black, poor kid out of Miami, there are more of those stories to be told. We know little boys and girls and just people in general who are like Chiron in that movie, but their stories are not told, and the representation does matter. From NASA to the ghettos of Miami, all of that matters, and I think that made me say, I need to tell my story. I need to talk about things. I need to speak from a first-person perspective and make sure that I don't get erased, that we don't get erased, that all the people I'm trying to do this for, that we feel seen, that we feel heard. You know what I'm saying? I feel a deeper responsibility to that.
We're really excited to hear your album, Dirty Computer. Are people going to get to see you? Are you planning a tour? Can your fans, how many stops, or do you know any of that so far, or you just, I want it out, we're waiting until then?
I just kind of show up. I really, honestly, I don't even know
Wherever they want you to be.
No,
you're
I
there.
I don't know, but I do know that I'm doing a tour.
Okay, cool. We're excited to see you. Yes, on tour. Janelle Monae, everybody. Make sure you get her album. It's out next Friday. And we're going to take pictures. So get ready to meet Janelle.
Thank you. It also comes out with a visual component. I call it an emotion picture. Some people will call it a visual album, or they'll call it a short film narrative. But it's an emotion picture. And it delves, or it digs deeper into the world of the dirty computers, set in the near future. And I don't know what it turned out to be, but it turned out to be something that I'm proud of. So make sure when you get the album that you also watch the emotion picture. It'll be on some TV stations, and it'll be up like on all the websites that sell those types of things, or that stream those types of things. You know, we're in a streaming business.
Sounds good. Sound good, guys? Yeah, we'll get it. We're going to watch. Thank you again.
Thank you so much.
Really
Lovely to
you.
talk to you. Thank you
Yes.
all for coming. I don't take this moment for granted.